You ever scroll through a comment section and just feel like you've entered a parallel universe? A place where hundreds of people are furiously debating an article that it seems, that none of them have actually read? Yeah, let's get into it. Today, we're breaking down this bizarre, frustrating, and, let's be honest, super common thing we do, commenting based on nothing but the headline.
So picture this headline popping up in your feed. I guarantee within seconds the comments are just on fire. You've got cat-loving libertarians writing whole essays on the free market of catnip. You've got die-hard communists praising Chairman Meow's collective ownership of sunbeams. And the one thing they all have in common? Not a single one of them clicked the link to find out the study was actually a joke from a satire site.
And that right there, that's the central question for this whole explainer. We've all seen this play out, right? It's this tragicomedy we watch every single day online. But what is actually going on? What's happening in our brains and on our screens that makes this a default for so many of us?
Okay, so to really understand this behavior, we first need to give it a name. It's so common it almost feels like a performance, like a play we see every day. And in this first part, we're going to pull back the curtain.
The research has a few different names for this. There's blind commenting, headline reactivity syndrome, and my personal favorite, the very academic-sounding pre-article response syndrome. But they all point to the exact same thing. We're reacting, not reflecting. We're making a judgment based on a tiny little cue instead of actually understanding the real message.
One source describes this whole thing as a three-act play. And honestly, it's the perfect metaphor. Act 1, the curtain rises on a super provocative title. Act 2, we, the audience, have an immediate, gut-level emotional reaction. And then, for the grand finale, Act 3, a whole chorus of people furiously arguing about a villain that the article never even mentioned.
All right, so why? Why do we do this? Is it just pure laziness? Well, it turns out it's actually way deeper than that. It's really about how our brains are fundamentally wired to deal with a world of endless information and constant scrolling. So psychology gives us this really useful breakdown of how we think. We've got two systems. System 1 is fast, it's intuitive, it's emotional, it's our gut reaction. System 2, that's the slow, deliberate, rational part of our brain. Now, reacting to a headline, that is a pure System 1 victory. It's easy, it's effortless, but actually reading the whole article, that takes the slow, hard work of System 2. And a lot of the time, our brain just doesn't want to spend that energy.
And this is where our mental shortcuts, our biases, just take over. Our brains are what you'd call cognitive misers. They want to save energy whenever possible. And reacting to 8 words is an absolute energy bargain compared to reading 1,000. Then you got confirmation bias, where we just use the headline to instantly prove what we already think is true. And finally, anchoring bias locks us in. That headline becomes the first and often only piece of information we use to judge the entire thing.
So if our brains have this built-in weakness for headlines and shortcuts, you can absolutely bet that the digital world has been designed to exploit it. Seriously, this isn't happening by accident, it's happening by design.
Today's headlines aren't just summaries, they're weapons. Publishers create what's called an artificial curiosity gap to make you feel like you just have to know more. And they put a pathos premium on emotional words because they know that feelings, especially anger and outrage, get a much faster and bigger response than boring old facts. The goal isn't to inform you anymore, it's to provoke you.
And the algorithms on social media, they're just pouring gasoline on this fire. They couldn't care less about thoughtful consideration. What they want is fast emotional engagement, because outrage is profitable. The algorithm sees your angry title-triggered comment and just feeds you more of the same stuff, digging your echo chamber even deeper. The research even shows that algorithms will hide news from opposing viewpoints, even if you've gone out of your way to follow them.
Now, this isn't just some minor internet annoyance, just people being silly online. When you actually look at the numbers, you see this is a massive problem with some very serious real-world consequences for how we all talk to each other.
Okay, let's start with this number from a 2016 study. 59%. Just let that sink in for a second. Nearly 6 out of every 10 links that you see shared on social media were never actually opened by the person who shared them. The headline itself has become the entire conversation. It's like social currency that gets passed around without anyone ever checking to see if it's real.
And then there's this statistic, which I think gets right to the heart of it. 48.6%. That's the percentage of commenters who spend more time reading and fighting in the comments section than they do with the actual article. For almost half of them, the comment section is the main event. It's a total substitute for actually engaging with the content.
And This table here, it really brings it all together into what the research calls the deliberation deficit. It shows that what's happening in the comments is a response to other people, to the social vibe, not to the actual content. It's all about personal opinions, not facts. And get this, because people often read the comments before the article, those comments frame their perception before they've even read a single word, making it almost impossible to shake that initial title-based bias.
So what's the big deal? Well, this isn't just about messy comment sections. This behavior directly chips away at our trust in the media, it cranks up political polarization to 11, it completely kills any chance for a nuanced debate, and just replaces it with tribal signaling. And worst of all, it is the perfect vehicle for misinformation to spread. Because when no one reads past the headline is the only truth that matters.
Okay, I know that is a pretty bleak picture, but the situation is not hopeless. The same research that diagnoses this whole problem also points towards some real, concrete ways we can start to re-engineer our digital world to fight back.
So how do we fix this? The solutions are all about what's called remedial intellectual engineering. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Add some intentional friction. Imagine if you had to pass a simple 3-question quiz about an article before the comment box even appeared. Or platforms could pop up with little questions, asking you to reflect on what you just read. And finally, a big push for publishers to de-weaponize their titles, to choose accuracy over outrage in order to rebuild some of that lost trust.
Ultimately, the most effective path forward probably isn't just hoping that human nature is going to magically change. It's about changing the environment itself. The goal is to build digital spaces that reward understanding over just reacting, making it intellectually impossible, or, as one source brilliantly put it, at least hilariously inconvenient, to comment blind.
And that leaves us with one final thought, a question to turn back on ourselves. It's a simple gut check to take with you the next time you're scrolling through your feed. The next time you feel that powerful, visceral urge to jump into the fray and type out a response, just pause for 1 second and ask yourself this one simple question. It really might change everything.